What is going on, you guys, and welcome to the video. In this video, we are going to be doing a full-on review, a full-on walkthrough of Wealthsimple Invest. We'll talk about the pros, the cons, whether it's right for you, basically touch on everything that you need to know if you are thinking about investing with Wealthsimple Invest or you are currently investing with Wealthsimple Invest. This is our series where we review different platforms. We've done this for Questrade, we've done this for Wealthsimple Trade, which I will include down in the description. But today we're honing in on what I believe to be the best Robo-Advisor platform available here in Canada. And what we'll be doing in this video, if you stick around throughout the entirety, is we'll talk about what a Robo-Advisor is in the first place. We'll talk about whether it's right for you. We'll obviously go through, I have here a real live account that we're going to go through. We'll talk about all the different metrics, what they mean, how to utilize it. We'll talk about fees associated, the costs that this will incur to use this platform, pretty much just every single thing you need to know. And all I ask in return is that if you do learn something new, if you enjoy, feel free to give this one a thumbs up, and you can subscribe for more content because, like I said, we've done reviews on a variety of different platforms. But let's dive in to Wealthsimple Invest. Investing on autopilot is the name, or is the catchphrase that they like to go by, and we'll see why that's the case as we go deeper and deeper into this video. But what I'd like to start with is, depending on where you're watching this video from, Wealthsimple Invest is available both to Canadian investors as well as American investors. You'll actually see them available in Europe as well, but primarily, I know a lot of our viewers are coming from Canada and the US. Absolutely, you can use these here. I'll knock this question out right off the bat because I'm sure it's going to come up at some point. Is this a mobile-friendly platform? Can you use it on your iPad, on your iPhone? Of course you can. This has accessibility to be done through your phone as well as on a desktop like I'm doing right here. I'm just using my MacBook. This is the actual website, FYI. Wealthsimple.com. This is what it will look like as of current day. But before we dive into the actual account and show you guys how that works, let's start with the top level question and ask ourselves, what is a robo-advisor? Because I know it's a very blurry question. It's a very blurry area for some people. Is it a real robot that you're looking at? Are you sitting face to face with some machine of some sort? A robo-advisor, very simply, guys, is almost this new hybrid technology that has been released, which will essentially help you as a new investor build a portfolio that is suitable for your situation. It is a technology, it is an algorithm, it's a system that essentially, well, how it works. I mean, as you go through, if you sign up with Wealthsimple Trade or with Wealthsimple Invest, you'll go through a questionnaire. The platform will get to know you in terms of your goals and your risk levels and all sorts of things. And it will essentially compile up and it will spit out a suggested portfolio that would be suitable for someone like yourself. That, in the simplest form, is the role of a robo-advisor. Of course, it gets a little bit deeper in the sense that they help you rebalance your portfolio from time to time when it gets off target. Let's assume you're putting money in every month. We can automate that entire process. Again, they really like to push this autopilot feature, but the main idea there, guys, is that you can have a portfolio suggested for you versus you going out and building it on your own. Now, how that works, if we take a look down here, it even says here how it works, is there's a variety of different ways one can construct their portfolio in the world of investing. You have very safe investments, such as government bonds. You move up the risk scale and you come to stocks or equities. So going out and buying shares of companies. And in fact, you can see here even emerging markets. So investing in smaller emerging countries, which does come with more risk. Essentially, based on your answers, again, this is what the robo-advisor or the algorithm will do, is they'll spit out a suggestion. Oh, are you more growth orientated? Should you have a higher exposure to stocks or equities? Are you a very safe investor? Do you like the slow and steady approach? And if so, based on your answers, you may be suggested with a portfolio more weighted to bonds or more weighted to a safer investment. To give you guys a live example of this, let's hop into an actual account. And you see here, this is the dashboard that you'd be looking at, which I absolutely love in terms of simplicity. It really kind of details the name Wealthsimple. That's why they get the name Wealthsimple. It is truly a simple platform. But to just show you what I mean, well, we can kind of go through this. First of all, hello, Evan, you have just under $20,000 in your account. You're up $442, as you can see here. This, FYI, if you're very new to investing, is just the lifelong performance of this account. We've seen a slow, gradual increase. Some money did get withdrawn here. You'll notice the big drop off. That was not from the markets. That was actually money taken out of his TFSA. But you can obviously toggle this to the different time frames and see what's an appropriate time frame for you. But a very simple layout to start things off. If you do scroll down, you can see the different account types, and we'll touch on this in just a second. But with this particular circumstance, we're looking at $10,000 in his TFSA. And then with the RRSP, we have a $9,000 balance. So these are two separate accounts, both within Wealthsimple Invest, both utilizing the Robo-Advisor feature. And to just show you exactly, taking the long route here, but to get into it, we'll jump into the TFSA, and you can actually scroll down to the portfolio build. And as we can see here, the Robo-Advisor algorithm has suggested for Evan an 85-15 portfolio split. In other words, because in this case, I know for a fact this is one of my best friends. He himself is a younger investor, and he's definitely striving for growth for retirement. We want a high weighting to equities. We want more exposure to the growing assets, which is why if you actually take a look, first of all, the risk level, we see that it's a 9 in terms of risk level out of 10, definitely focused to growth. If we take a look into these holdings, here's the actual portfolio that this Wealthsimple Invest account is built up of. So this, to put it simply, is the value you get from using Wealthsimple Invest is that they are suggesting literal investments for you. You do not have to go out and pick them yourself, because if you actually take a look into what this column is, Wealthsimple Invest suggested a 21% exposure into international equities. In other words, if Evan invested $100, $21 of that 100 is allocated to international equities. And the investment that Wealthsimple has recommended in this case is an investment titled XEF. It's the iShares Core MSCI EFI or EAFE IMI Index, which I know is a crazy name, and don't worry, you don't have to know that type of thing. But essentially, this is what's called an ETF, or an exchange traded fund that invests in international equities. And an ETF, by the way, for anybody that is very new to investments, you can very simply think of this as a basket of assets. So you're not going out and just picking one single stock and placing all your money into Tesla or Apple or whatever the individual company is. You're essentially buying a basket of these assets. And that's what's called an ETF, an exchange traded fund. And to actually highlight this one in particular, so XEF, again, I know it does look a little bit confusing here, but if you hone in on the top 10 investments within this ETF, this basket contains Nestle. So the company that makes, they make all sorts of things, Nesquik, and it's jumping my mind what Nestle makes right now, but they make a ton of things. Roche Holdings, Novartis, Toyota Motors. So Evan, by owning this ETF in his portfolio, is actually getting exposure to all of these companies, Royal Dutch Shell. And this is, of course, just the top 10, but you can see that he's getting a great level of exposure to some of these very unique companies, Japan, United Kingdom, Switzerland, etc. And that's really the name of the game by Wealthsimple standards is let's diversify you. Let's give you exposure across the board. You see another 21% of his portfolio is dedicated to US equities. So in particular here, this is the VTI, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. This index, if we were to look into it, would include quite simply the big US companies. So Evan, through the use of ETFs, is investing in all of these. And you see the case goes down. He has a smaller exposure to emerging markets, global, similar, 10%, Canadian exposure to 10%, and then he has the fixed income or the bonds exposure, again, all relative to his specific account. So that's really how it works. When we say here, how does this Robo-Advisor platform works? You are going to get a portfolio built for you, and that is really the value add. This is a perfect scenario for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. They don't really want to know. They just want to say, hey, let's get something that's suitable for me that I can sock my money away and get going. One thing that we will address on is if we go down here and knock this out of the way, a very great benefit to Wealthsimple Trade is that they actually can let you, in a sense, tinker around with your balance or with your portfolio. And they're especially known these days for a couple cool features such as socially responsible investing. So this is becoming a very hot area in the market with people who are against a variety of things, uneco-friendly companies, companies that treat on animals, etc., they can actually help build a portfolio catered around those limitations. You'll even see something here, which is very popular amongst the Muslim community, halal investing, in which if this is part of your religion, certain investments you're not allowed to invest in. Well, Wealthsimple does a good job of actually presenting portfolios that can help you get the desired outcome as well as following with your beliefs. So that's a cool little feature, which I think is worth mentioning. And then, of course, what is of utmost importance is that you can select pretty much any investment account here. And this, to me, I'll actually just bring this a little larger so you can see. When you choose to invest on Wealthsimple Invest, or any brokerage for that matter, you have to select which account type is best for you. And a lot of brokerages don't offer the full suite of accounts, but with Wealthsimple Invest, you are getting every option available. The RRSP, your retirement account, your tax-free savings account, the TFSA. You could have a personal account. You can have an RESP for kids, a RIF for when you're in retirement and you're looking to pull out money, locked-in account, joint accounts, business accounts. There is truly a wide selection of accounts so that it is suitable for everybody. And what is super, super awesome about Wealthsimple Invest is that there are 0 minimum requirements to get started. I love this feature in the sense that you can get started with as little as $100 or $1,000. You can pop this money into your account, get a suggested portfolio built up for you, and start investing with let's call it a smaller amount of money, because you will come across platforms that require $1,000 minimum, a $15,000 minimum, or you get charged with fees and whatnot. It is a very, very beginner-friendly, easy-going platform. And I just touched there on fees. That's something that we'll now transition to, because one thing that I really want to make clear about this is how much are you going to be paying to use this platform? A lot of reviews I've seen online, they don't really dictate this properly. And this is, of course, of utmost importance. You want to know how much you're paying in fees and what those are going to be. Because to invest with Wealthsimple, there are actually 2 fees that you are going to be incurring. There's the fee for the Robo-Advisor service. This is essentially the Wealthsimple management fee, let's call it. And there's also the fee on the ETFs that you invest in. Let me explain. So by taking a look at these different tier prices, let's call it, we have the basic tier, the black tier, and then the generation tier. Depending on how much money you put onto this platform, depending on how much money you decide to invest, you will be hit with a different management fee. And this first fee that we're talking about is simply Wealthsimple's fee. They provide you with this service of a Robo-Advisor. They suggest a portfolio for you. They auto-rebalance your portfolio. They'll help keep you on track. That does not come free. That comes at a fee. And as you see here, if you deposit anywhere between $0 to $100,000, you pay an annual fee of 0.5%. So what that means is that if you had $100 in that account, you would pay about 50 cents per year in management fees. That's what Wealthsimple would take off the top. They actually take it through. I'll show you something actually very interesting in a second. They actually take that out periodically, but that's the simple fee that you're paying for a Robo-Advisor. If you look over to the tier on the right, which is the black, Wealthsimple black tier, if you're depositing over $100,000, let's say you're moving money over from the bank or whatever the case is, they do knock that fee down to 0.4%. So that would be, in that same case, you're on $100, you're paying 40 cents per year. I know that doesn't sound like a big difference, but on a more significant chunk of money, that totally adds up. And again, that's year after year after year. And then, of course, they have this generation plan, which is actually a new addition. If you're coming in with over $500,000, it says here you're getting all the features in black, which is essentially the same reduced fee, but you do have a few extra perks. And we'll leave it as that for now. But to just showcase this by jumping back into the actual account, if you go to the activity tab, so we have the portfolio tab, which is what we looked at to start with, if it loads. If we go to the activity tab, this will actually show us what's going on within our account. And I love the simplicity here, because what we can see is that on September 23rd, Wealthsimple, the Robo-Advisor service, rebalanced your RRSP. It rebalanced your TFSA. And again, you don't have to know what's going on here. This is what you're paying them for. But in this case, they sold Q-Tip, which is one of the funds. I know that's a funny name. And then they use those funds to go buy some GLDM. They bought some ZFL to get your portfolio back on balance. Because as you'll learn when it comes to investing, all the investments are growing at their own pace. It does call for rebalancing. And this is a prime example of a rebalance that took place. We see here on September 2nd, we received a dividend for the amount of $2.26. In the TFSA, we also got a similar dividend for $2.53. And this is what I was trying to get at, fees paid. So here in August, we do see that the gross management fee, this is what we're talking about right here, the fee, the 0.5% fee. Well, this is what was taken out of the RRSP. This is what was taken out of the TFSA. And what I love about this is that it's super transparent. You can see everything that's happened here. You see when the fees are taken out. You see when the dividends are received. It is just a very, very simple platform, as you can kind of see. And that's really the chat on the first part of fees, is the fact that you have the gross management fees that are being paid year after year after year, or in this case, on a monthly basis. Now, there is a second type of fee that you must be aware about, and this is something that a lot of people tend to overlook. When you invest in ETFs, which is, again, the types of products that we were looking at here, if we were to look into Evan's portfolio into the TFSA and then bounce back down to the portfolio holdings, these ETFs, so XEF, VTI, EEMV, these all come at a cost, okay? These have their own fees as well. You can think of it as a fee to invest in this basket. And actually, if you take a look at XEF, which we were already looking at, by scrolling up to this area, and again, I don't expect anybody to know this, but that's what I'm here to explain to you. XEF, so the ETF that Evan owns, charges a management expense ratio of 0.22%. So this is the second fee that you'd be paying on the actual amount, or on the actual fund that you have, the amount of money that you have invested in this fund. So let me be clear on that. If Evan had $100 invested in XEF, 22 cents of that would be taken off as iShares fee. This is the fund's fee for packaging up this product. I mean, let's keep in mind, Evan could go out and buy all these individually together. He could go out and buy 100 different stocks, but they say, hey, we'll bundle it up. We'll package it up for you, all companies in a similar area, and we're just going to charge the 22 cents on every $100 you invest. So very simple there, but it is worth keeping in mind, you are constantly paying these fees on each of these funds. So again, each of these funds will have their own unique fee, usually hovers between 0.08, sometimes as high as 0.3, 0.4, 0.5%. It totally depends on the fund. But there's that fee along with the Wealthsimple Invest management fee. And that is, I think, a great way to summarize the total cost that you'd be paying to invest in this platform. They're all ongoing, so you're not cutting a check to them. You're not paying, writing a bill payment to them or any sorts. They actually take this off the top of your account. But I think it's my duty to make that very clear and aware that there are fees associated, and that is completely normal. If you're expecting this whole world to be free and everything to just come at no cost, well, you're in for a rude awakening, because to get a very powerful platform like this where they're going to suggest for you, they're going to help you out, they're going to be here to support you. And FYI, you actually can ask people for help. They have a feature where you can actually speak with humans if you want to. The algorithm, again, is all computer-based, but if you do ever want to speak with someone, they are absolutely in reach. And this all comes into those fees that we just covered. So that is part of it. In my opinion, you build a good portfolio that grows for you and makes you a ton of money over the years, it's well worth paying a good fee. But that's just our simple talk on fees. Now, a question that I want to not wrap up, but before we get into some of the juicy parts and overall summary, whether this is for you or not, a question that I will commonly get on these is, are these companies safe? Right? Is it safe for me to put my money here? And absolutely, I believe that is the case. We can see here, this is as of today's statistics, over $5 billion on the platform in terms of companies that the money that the platform is managing, with over 175,000 people using the platform. And they're really growing and expanding quickly. By the time you look at this number, I guarantee it'll be updated. They are CIPF protected. So this is what's called the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. And what this means is that if Wealthsimple were to go bankrupt, if they blew up, and if something happened with the company itself, you have actually insurance, you have protection on the money that you have invested here. The specific number off the top of my head, I can't recall, but I believe it's up to $1 million per account, maybe $100,000. I have to double check that, but you can easily look into the Canadian Investor Protection Fund if you'd like. They're also governed by IROC. IIROC. This is actually the governing body in the investing space, and any of the major brokers that you look for, any of the major that you use or that you will see around, they're almost always governed by this same body, which is just the oversight, making sure that they're doing everything properly. Last but not least, they do have some powerful backing. So if you follow our channel, we talk about the company Power Corp from time to time, which is one of our favorite Canadian investments. They're actually the parent company of Wealthsimple, just as a fun fact, which does give this company a lot of backing to help with investments and growing this platform going forward. But to finish off this video, and I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. I hope I've been able to explain things well enough. If you are enjoying it, by the way, please feel free to drop a thumbs up. That really, really helps. We'll just go through one final look through of the account. I'm sure that's what you guys are excited for, is that if I start, well, what's it going to look like? We'll go through one final overview, and then I'll talk about a couple cons that need to be factored in ultimately before you start investing with this platform. Again, we've touched on the home screen. My overall thoughts on this: simplistic, easygoing, super, super user-friendly, which is how I think investing should be for a lot of beginners. You don't want to be overwhelmed. For example, a platform like Interactive Brokers or Questrade can be very, very in your face. Think or swim. You see some people getting on those platforms and they're just overwhelmed. Look at this. You got your overall asset pool right here. You can go through and track the values at the specific dates. You can see here, 2 years ago or a year ago in October, this was the case, et cetera, et cetera. Again, we have the different accounts here, and you can feel free to make whatever accounts you please. If you go back up to the funding tab, obviously I'm going to be blurring a lot of this out for confidentiality reasons, but it's so easy to link up your bank account, and we already have here. Our bank account is linked up to the specific account. In this case, we're sending it to the TFSA. Well, you can just choose how much money you want to have. Is this every month? Is this a one-time thing? When do you want to start? It really helps you autopilot the process. Of course, you can withdraw funds. So if you say, well, I need money back, I need to take money out of my TFSA to go buy a new car or go on a vacation, which is, I wouldn't suggest if you don't have to. But point is, you can take that money, you can withdraw, you can add systematic withdrawals. Again, to touch back on the activity tab, one of the things that you will notice when you receive a dividend, we actually have these set up so that they reinvest. And what that means quite simply is that when you receive a dividend, in this case from ZFL for $2.26, rather than taking that cash out and going out and spending it, we will actually pour that back into these funds. We'll recycle it back in. You can think of it like a feedback loop. And that just makes a huge, huge difference in compounding your returns over the long run. You'll see they actually have, looking into the RSP here, you have some projections as to by this age, this is what we can expect on a low end, on a high end. Again, obviously this is with the specific money we are adding in, but that quite simply, guys, is the very simple rundown on the platform. And we've almost looked at everything here. It is a very easygoing, easy to look at, very visually appealing platform, which I think actually could do a lot of benefits. Because to summarize this platform and to say whether it's right for you, let me give you my overall thoughts in terms of pros, cons, and then just the overall thoughts. Pro number one is that this is a platform that truly helps an investor take this passive, hands-off approach. And I don't think that can be understated. I think investors will actually get caught up in all the metrics and the tools in other platforms, and it may actually cause them to make a mistake. The fact that this is so hands-off and passive, it really lets people do what investing should be. It lets investing be done the way it should be by just letting your investments grow naturally. The second positive, I think, as we just touched on, is I think this is a very visually appealing platform. I think they nailed it with the simplicity. It's not here to overwhelm you. It's not here to confuse you. Keep in mind, we have people here all the time that are brand new to the stock market. They've never done anything. You don't want to be overwhelmed. And the simple layout, I think, is just absolutely, they nailed it. Simple to use, and what I have here put is it's actually fast to set up. And if you look to this very bottom tab, start investing in 5 minutes. This is the process that we talked about. Answer a few questions, we'll suggest a portfolio, you connect your bank account and make a deposit. You can really get set up very, very quickly. You don't have to think about this onerous process of just getting more and more time-consuming stuff. It's just, hey, let's get it done. Let's keep things simple. As I touched on, they do have the ability to add money frequently through an automatic deposits. You can link that up, as I touched on, in the funding tab. Any major broker will let you do that. But what's good about this is they do let you reinvest your dividends as well. This is a very cool tool used by investors that like the autopilot feature. You get those dividends, you pour them back in. Mobile friendly. I'm personally a person that likes to use the computer rather than my app, but I know many people out there where it's the opposite. They love using their phone. They don't like using the computer. You can absolutely do this from your phone. And a very important one here is that there's no minimums, okay? You don't have to start with a $10,000 account. You don't have to start with a threshold. It's just, hey, let's get you started. Let's get $500 in. Let's get $1,000 in. And then you're good to go, which is not the case with a lot of other platforms. Now, to compare that to the downsides or the cons with Wealthsimple Invest, and I think this is very important to look at. You want to have the most well-rounded decision as you come onto using a platform. The con number one, may be looked at as a con, is that you are limited to your investment selection. And what I mean by that is that we looked at a couple examples in this case portfolio. They're all built up of ETFs, those baskets that I talked about. With Wealthsimple Invest, you are limited to using ETFs. Now, that is not a bad thing because those are often some of the best products you can use. You'll hear about low-cost index investing. That's exactly what an ETF is. But it does restrict you in the sense that if you did want to go out and buy a specific share of Tesla, or if you wanted to go out and buy McDonald's or Coca-Cola for that matter, you are limited to using ETFs. The Robo-Advisor service will suggest a portfolio for you, and that's what you're stuck to. Again, you do have some flexibility now with, let's say, a Halal portfolio or a socially responsible portfolio, but just keep in mind, you're going to be using the ETFs, which is not a bad thing because, again, the whole idea of using a Robo-Advisor is that we want to take this passive approach. We don't want to be super involved. We want it to just be the set it and forget it. So whether you view that as a con, it's something to be aware about. Of course, the next thing that comes with that is that it does come at a fee. And we touched on the different tiers. That is the cost of using this platform. Of course, everybody does have the option. If you want to spend time and you want to get super involved, you can go out and pick stocks individually. You can go do your own research. You can go keep up with the markets. You can build your own portfolio for that matter on a different platform, and you don't have to pay that management fee year after year after year. But if you see the value in having this all suggested for you, if you're the type of person that doesn't want to be involved, you want to take that passive approach, well, then this is a fee well worth paying. But of course, it would still fall into the cons or the negative category, in my opinion. Again, more or less just something to be aware about. But to summarize, for me here, if you want to hear my general opinion on this, this is my favorite option as of today. This industry is always changing, but as of filming this video, here in Canada, this is the best and my favorite option for a robo-advisor. I love the simplicity of it. I love the idea of just keeping it simple. That is one of the principles that I live with investing. And I think it's something that can get a lot of people into a lot of trouble is when they overcomplicate things. And what this platform does for you is they strip that out. They don't give you the option to get overcomplicated. They say, we're keeping it simple. We're running with this. And especially if you're the type of person that wants that hands-off approach, if you want to go spend time with your kids, or you want to go to work and not have to worry about what you're buying and selling, but you want your money to be growing for you, this is a phenomenal, phenomenal platform. I love the autopilot feature. It is significantly cheaper than going to the bank and working with an advisor. So that 0.5% fee, you'll get some people that argue for it, argue against it. If you fall into the category of someone who wants to lay back, you want to just set it and forget it, I think this is a phenomenal choice. You should look no further. If you guys enjoyed today's video and you found it helpful, I would really, really appreciate it if you gave this one a thumbs up. If you got any good information out of it, just leave a little thumbs up or let me know what your thoughts were down in the comments because that really helps out. If you guys did agree with my thoughts and you feel like you would like to give Wealthsimple Invest a try, I would highly suggest using, actually, there's a custom link that I'll include down below this video because in return for using that link, you'll actually get a $50 sign up bonus. Just for clicking that link, it truly is that. You get $50 sign up bonus, or you actually get a chunk of money managed free for the first year. Personally, for me, I like going for the sign up bonus, but that will let Wealthsimple know that I sent you. And it's a really great way of supporting me, as well as getting a little kickback there if you did find any of this information valuable. If not, feel free to use whatever link you'd like. But again, that will be down below. All I would ask though is if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe for more content, we do reviews on all sorts of platforms. Like I said, we've done this for Wealthsimple Trade. We've done this for Quest Trade. We'll be doing this for a variety going forward. So you'll definitely want to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. We do also have our Investing Academy, which is a separate thing. If you are someone that does want to get a little more involved, you want to get your hands dirty in the actual stock picking and portfolio building, that is down in the description below. It's called our Investing Academy, where we're working with Canadians. But as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed, hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.